What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So, Michigan State basketball heads on the road on Thursday to play Purdue at Mackey, 8 o'clock on Peacock. Now, Michigan State, last time out, left a lot to be desired against Ohio State on Sunday, but looking to bounce back with a little bit of a cleaner performance, going on the road to definitely not one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten. No, it is one of the top two, three places, toughest places to play in the Big Ten across the board. So, and a place that Michigan State hasn't got a win at since 2014. So, definitely been the 2013-14 season. Definitely been a long time. So, no better time than right now coming down the stretch for Michigan State to try to go on the road to Mackey against Purdue to get a win. Now, Purdue on the year, they've had highs, they've had lows, and even at Mackey as well, which is obviously very tough to play at. Earlier in the year, they got a nice road win against Alabama, 87 to 80. They got a win against Texas Tech as well, a 30-point win against Texas Tech, who's fairly good this year. So that was impressive. They had a blowout loss to Iowa State. They beat Auburn, blew Auburn out, which Auburn isn't good this year. Let's just say it. But Wisconsin, they got that win on the road. They beat Iowa. Then they had a kind of a weird three-game stretch where they lost at UCLA by 2. Then they lost at home to Illinois by 6. And then they lost on the road to Indiana. They were all close games, but that 3-game losing streak there. But then they turned it around with a 4-game win streak, including a win on the road at number 7 at the time, Nebraska. We know how good Nebraska's been. Obviously, that was one of our Big Ten losses on the year. But then they did lose at home, 11-point loss to that school down the road. But that's about what it was. It was like double-digit, 14-plus point game, most of the game, 12, 14. That's pretty much where it's sat at for most of the game. But then they bounced back after that and got a huge 29-point win at home against Indiana. So Michigan State coming in after Purdue played one of their better games, especially of the last stretch in terms of, blowing an opponent out in Indiana, who is solid towards the top of the conference, definitely. At times this year, kind of up and down, but either way. So Michigan State coming into this one after Purdue came off a really good performance last time out, and Michigan State kind of struggled on Sunday for most of the game. But anyway, before we do jump into the matchup, if you could, just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more Michigan State basketball content on the channel, so just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So we'll start with Purdue, and everything with Purdue, you have to start with Braden Smith. Purdue came into the year ranked number 1 for a reason, and majority of that reason was Braden Smith being widely regarded as one of the favorites for Big Ten Player of the Year, National Player of the Year, as well, just an all-around point guard. And on the year, he's playing about 34 minutes a game, 15 points, 4 rebounds, about 9 assists. Him and Jeremy have been at the top of the conference and in top of the country all year in terms of assists per game. He also averages 2 steals, shoots at 41% from 3 on solid volume as well. 81% from the free throw line, 48% from the field. Just very, very impressive overall. And then Fletcher Lawyer, obviously we know him, widely regarded as, one of the, better shooters in the country, definitely their highest volume 3-point shooters, and averages about 14 points a game, grabs 2 rebounds, about 2 assists as well, 40% from 3, but obviously, like I said, he has quite a higher volume than the rest of the roster. Trey Kaufman-Renn, 13 points a game and 9 rebounds with 3 assists as well. And Oscar Clough, their center, Kaufman-Renn and Clough operating down low, but Clough averages about 10 points, 7 rebounds on the year. And then CJ Cox averages 8 points for them. Daniel Jacobson, a big freshman for them, or I'm sorry, big sophomore for them. He's their 7'4" sophomore because they just grow on trees in West Lafayette. Omar Mayer, 6 points a game. So as a team, 83 points a game, solid scoring the basketball. They're one of the top offenses in the country for a reason. 36 rebounds a game. I'd say that's probably middle of the pack overall. That's about 125th or so in the country. Assist, obviously, that's going to be very high. A lot of that had to do with Braden Smith, but that 19.7, almost 20 assists per game, that's good for 3rd in the country. Steals, they quite force quite a few steals with about 6 a game, 3 blocks, only turn it over 9 times, 50% from the field, 74% from the line, 38% from three is also fairly solid. Now, looking over those numbers, we talked about the high assists, not a lot of turnovers. They're first in the country in assist to turnover ratio. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with Braden Smith taking care of the basketball and dishing it out. They don't run a lot, 268th in fast break points per game, 302nd in free throw attempts per game. Don't get to the line a lot, which they're a decent free throw shooting team, but not fantastic overall. They shoot about 24 three-pointers a game, 139th in the country. They make about 9 of them, which is good for 74th. And then that 38%, should I say, three-point percentage is good for 20th in the country. They don't force a lot of turnovers either, 252nd in the country in turnovers forced per game. And then they're 10th in the country with only 9 turnovers per game. So overall, obviously the headliners in, the guys that you'll know, Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Renn, guys that have been around for a while, and have helped Purdue get to a Final Four, win the Big Ten, and, had all the success at Purdue. They're there. And obviously they're front of mind when you think of Purdue. And then you have the factor of going to Mackey, a place Michigan State hasn't won in over a decade, or at in over a decade. So, Michigan State definitely has their hands full in this one. From a defensive standpoint, as we slide over to Michigan State, I think, just last time out, we saw what Bruce Thornton did to us. I don't put that all on one player. We saw Jeremy on him. We saw Jordan Scott on him. I think a little bit different. I think Braden could go out there and do what Bruce Thornton did. Maybe not the same way, but Braden Smith can go out there and drop 30 if he wants to. But, obviously with his assist, he passed Cassius Winston as the all-time Big Ten assist leader. Hopefully Jeremy Fears can stay around some years and pass that down the line, but get it back in, Michigan State's hold for that all-time Big Ten assist record holder. But, Braden Smith, he's obviously had an incredible career, and obviously everything like Tom Izzo talks about, when the head goes, the body follows. When the head dies, the body dies. So obviously kind of first things first is trying to address the Braden Smith of it all. Is it, do you have kind of a similar, I imagine, rotation with, Jeremy and with Jordan Scott? And do you, just try to eliminate him scoring the basketball and try to just make him one-dimensional and say, hey, you can go get, 12, 14 assists, whatever, but we're going to kind of keep you contained, keep you out of single digits. But the problem with that is if those assists are going and they're hitting those three-pointers at the rate that they do, especially at home, that can be a problem. I almost more think of is you try to, we saw it a lot with Purdue when they would have the Zach Edey's of the world and, even going back to Matt Harms, and when they have just the trees down there that, are just incredibly hard to defend. It's like, all right, go get your 34 points, whatever, we're just going to shut the water off everyone else. And I think kind of in this matchup, maybe kind of a similar way, but just kind of inverted, I guess. Like, Braden, you go do your thing. Braden, go drop 28 points, 30 points, whatever you want to do. But, we're not going to let you get everyone else involved. We're going to hold you to 4 or 5 assists, whatever it may be. But you can go get your 28, 30 points, whatever the case may be. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with, Fletcher with CJ Cox, both on the perimeter. Obviously, solid three-point shooters as well, but as a team, solid three-point shooters as well. But Trey Kaufman-Renn, TKR, him operating down low and in the mid-range, I think it'll be key not to let him go off because he can go off as well for, 20 plus points. So it's definitely going to be a challenge. And for Michigan State, I think if you are going to go that route and, try to cut off everyone else, I think definitely, especially at home, you want to try to cut off those three-point shooters. So Fletcher, CJ Cox, what do you do to do that? If Braden Smith and TKR want to, they can beat you them two selves. They're that good, and they've been doing that in the Big Ten for a long time. But if this is a game where Braden goes for 25, TKR goes for 25 or something like that, but then Fletch has like 5 or 7, CJ Cox has like 4, something like that, and don't get a lot of help from your bench. I think that's a good formula on the road for Michigan State. But if you got Fletcher, shooting, hitting 4 or 5 threes, you got CJ Cox knocking 3 or 4 down, then that's a problem given what Braden is going to do himself already. And just with how good that he is, one of the best point guards in the country, not just the conference, in the country, you know. So that kind of defensively, what we're kind of looking at here. And then when you look at Purdue offensively, they're top 20 in both 3-point and 2-point percentage offense. So, you know, defensively, this one is going to be one where we need to see Michigan State be that top 7 defensive team that they've been all year. You don't want this game to be, you know, in the mid to high 80s. Michigan State can score there, but especially on the road in Mackey on Thursday night, you'd much rather this game be a 74-68, something like that. So if Michigan State can do that defensively, I think that'll greatly benefit them. For Michigan State, obviously, you know, Purdue ranks high efficiency-wise on the defensive side of the ball. But when you look at the percentage of shots that Purdue defends, they're 129th in 3-point defense, but they're 205 in 2-point percentage defense. So Michigan State wants to attack the paint anyway. So, and I think getting your bigs going, and I've still been asking for it for a while for Jackson to have one of those games getting back. And, you know, we've seen him, I thought last game against Ohio State, aside from the fouls, I think he was having an incredible game. Overall, just obviously didn't have many minutes with the foul situation. So if we can get Jax kind of rolling in this one, and, you know, Trey Kaufman-Renn will probably be that matchup. So we'll see what Jax can do in that lineup. Obviously, Coop had a career game last time out against Ohio State. We'll see what he can do. Oscar Clough, overall, he's 6'11". I think Coop should have the height advantage in that one. But I'd like to see Oscar Clough moving. So if they can get Carson on the run with, you know, the pick and rolls and the dives to the basket, I think that'll be beneficial. Let's try to get that up there and, you know, have those alley-oop opportunities for Carson Cooper. When Daniel Jacobson is in the game, then obviously that'll be something different attacking the paint. Obviously with, you know, that 7'4", you know, 7'4" length down there. So I'm curious how they attack that there, but I do think the mid-range will be important in this game too. But then obviously, you know, it goes without saying, you got to hit a couple 3-pointers in this game. Not saying you need to be like you were against UCLA, but, you know, if you're shooting, you know, making only 3 to 5 3-pointers a game, that's probably not going to get it done. Probably going to need 7 to 9 somewhere in there in this one. Be efficient in the mid-range as well, and then just attack and win the paint battle in this one, I think, is what's going to be key to get a win here on the road in this one. And then obviously the most important thing, Jeremy Fears being Jeremy Fears and winning that matchup with Braden Smith. Obviously this is a matchup of, I think, the 2 best point guards in the conference, and in my opinion, probably 2 of the best point guards in not just the conference but the country. So Jeremy Fears winning that matchup will be key. He's going to have to do it on both ends, though, I believe, because even if he's not the one covering Braden Smith, you know, either if he's covering Fletcher Lawyer, CJ Cox, you know, whoever Jeremy is on, he's going to have to do it on both ends because of how talented Purdue is offensively. So mantra of the program, defend, rebound, run. Can't turn the ball over. Got to get out to a fast start. We saw some good things in the last couple games, but too many of the games over this last stretch have been, you know, digging yourself a hole, which we've said, you know, for a month and a half or 2 now. Cannot start on the road at Mackey down in a 8-2 hole or a 12-2 hole, something like that. So fast start is definitely needed in this one on Thursday night. But anyway, we're looking at Bart Torvik here. Currently, Bart Torvik has Purdue as the number 7 team in the country overall. In the AP poll, they are number 8 currently. 2nd adjusted efficiency offense, 26th adjusted efficiency defense overall. And Michigan State, currently Bart Torvik has them as number 17 in the country. Moved up to number 13 in the AP poll, 47th adjusted efficiency offense, 8th adjusted efficiency defense. Now, this game for Michigan State, Bart Torvik has this as a 74-67 Michigan State loss on the road. So, look, it's going to be a tough environment. Going to have to do a lot of things right to win this one, clean up a lot of stuff from Sunday. And, you know, this is obviously one of the tougher matchups over the last 2 weeks of the season. And in this last 2 weeks of the season, there is a lot of tough matchups overall. I mean, there's no easy road Big Ten game either, but especially not at Purdue in Mackey. Not going to be easy, but um, would really be nice for Michigan State to get a win here, not just help them overall, record wise, but, feel good wise, getting a win there, and then also helping improve, as we said, for Michigan State with these teams being kind of tied in the conference, getting that upper hand to secure a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament, but then also seeing if you can move up from that 4 seed line where they're currently at. For the NCAA tournament. So, big one on Thursday night. We'll be back afterwards to recap this one. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.